The most common question I get asked working for Dot & Company is, what does a client account manager's day-to-day look like? So we're really promoting work-life balance, working with different agencies, but the details of that day-to-day experience really come from our client account managers that are working with different digital marketing agencies. We are going to dive into what a day in the life of a client account manager looks like working for Dot & Company. Melanie, I'm so excited to chat today. Of course, you and I chat all the time, but I do want to dive into your day-to-day and what a day in the life of Melanie, client account manager extraordinaire, looks like. So I think this is just really valuable for everybody who's kind of wondering even what we do or how we manage our day. So I think we should kind of dive right in. And, I'm big on morning routine. I like to get the kids on the bus. I like to have a cup of coffee before I talk to people. But tell me, Melanie, what's your secret? How do you start the day?
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me. Yeah. So how I start my day, I wake up nice and early with my kids. Um, and for me, it's really important that I have that time with my kids. So we make a proper breakfast. We do eggs, toast, yogurt, fruit, all the fun things. And then as we get ready for the day, I get ready, the kids get ready. We head off for first drop off, which is my son. We do bus drop off. And then me and my son, Lucas, since he's the youngest, we don't really get a lot of one-on-one time together. And we have like a 15-minute buffer before I drop him off. So we actually go to the coffee shop
Cute.
typically. Yeah, we go to the coffee shop and we have our little coffee date. He gets his banana bread, I get my decaf latte, and we just have like our time before he drops off and then before I, dig in and start work. So that's like our special time together. And I really value that because we're not rushing off to, getting in rush hour and driving hours to work. So yeah, then when I start my day of actual cam work, I typically have about 30 minutes before I either have like an internal call, a client call, or like a call within
Mhm.
Dot. So I set up my day, I get my day ready, I figure out what my big to-dos are, and then I dive into either my day kind of ranges between a day of back-to-back meetings with clients or a day of like client management, project management, and like coordinating funnels or ad campaigns or all those different things. So then I pretty much do that all day long. I take my breaks whenever I need to.
I love there's like so many little, what do they call them? Easter eggs in there. There's so many wins. First of all, love the banana bread.
Yeah.
Little coffee date. I love that too. Like I feel so grateful for this role
Yeah.
because you get to have those special moments. I
Yeah.
get to, not that I want to do this, but if they're sick, I pick them up. If they're having a Christmas concert, I'm there. If they're having a spring
Exactly.
concert, I'm there. And there's no sort of have to take time off work. You kind of work your schedule around it, right? So
Yeah.
such a win to have those special moments. And I think that's really important to me as well. And I know some other moms on the team.
Yeah.
But I would love to really debrief on what those kind of two different days look like, sort of those
Mhm.
back-to-back meetings. How do you even, manage that in terms of Zoom fatigue and being prepared? Like back-to-back
Mhm.
meetings is really tough. I'm big on the buffers, but sometimes we just know that they don't happen, right?
Yeah.
Versus sort of that project management day. But the Easter egg I really liked in that whole thing was that first sort of um, 30 minutes to yourself or 30
Mhm.
minutes to check Slack, 30 minutes to check your email and really
Mhm.
prioritize and see kind of what's been happening while you've been off. So I find that 30 minutes super valuable too.
Yeah.
Um, Mine's actually an hour.
Nice.
But yeah, I kind of take that 9 to 10 piece and really work internally, which is great. But tell me about that, Melanie. Tell me about how you kind of break down those back-to-back days.
Yeah.
We'll go on the tough days first, because I can
Yeah.
imagine those are the more exhausting ones, right?
Yeah. On those tough days, like I have water with me at all times. I typically have my tea as well at all times, so I'm hydrated, because
Mhm.
that's super, super important, just, like, keep your brain moving, and I move around my house, So I'll sit in the kitchen in the morning because there's sun at the back of my house. When the sun rises at the back of my house. So I typically try and do my mornings with the sunrise. So I get sun and like my circadian rhythm is normal. And so I like to sit with the sun and I get that view and I do a couple meetings there and then I switch it up. So like my environment is changed. So that refreshes my energy a little bit. Sometimes I'll have a window open, which, gives me a bit of that boost. But like in regards to like back to back, I find the most challenging thing is food. I eat a lot of food. um, and so that energy and that focus, I try and figure out what my food is going to be like throughout the day. And if I do have that back to back, I will just like have a snack here and there. I'll have like food. But yeah, those are some of my little tips that
Those
I
are the
do.
hacks.
Those
The
are my little
hacks.
cracks. Like
Yeah.
the sitting with the sun is I find really, really helpful for me, just like getting my energy up. And then yeah, the water, the fresh air, and then moving around the house, whether it's like standing at my island and eating, or I know a lot of cams they'll go to like a coffee shop for
Mhm.
like solid work time. But then for meetings and you don't want to have that other noise, I like to do it in the house. So I just switch up my environment and that helps me kind of maintain that energy.
And
Yeah.
I think there's an element here of, we're always promoting sort of making your own schedule and being sort of in control of that. And
Mhm.
that's so helpful from being at home and really having your safe things close, right? Keeps your
Yeah.
energy up. In your house where you're going to be productive, sort of
Yeah.
where the good brain space is. But as client account managers, we love to kind of be in charge of our own schedule. So back to back days are definitely happen some days. And yeah, they're the
Mhm.
kind of the more intense days coupled with less intense days, which we'll get to in a second. But
Mhm.
I always kind of my hack on this all is I, as tough as those sort of back to back days are, sometimes Zoom fatigue, maybe your bum's sore, you're standing, you're moving around, but also it's good to kind of even get those. Like, I love a Tuesday full of meetings. And here's why. My hack is to really kind of check those off and make
Mhm.
sure that clients start the week off great.
Yeah.
They're totally excited about what you're working on and what's happening in their account. The weekends, things can happen. You're a little bit more off,
Mhm.
well, you're totally offline. And kind of touching base. Now, a Monday meeting has me a little shook, but
Yeah.
a Tuesday external meeting, I just love to kind of jam pack it all together.
Mhm.
And then you have those tasks, right? For the end of the
Yeah.
week, the rest of the time too. I don't even think, I mean, it is sure exhausting, but as jam
Yeah.
packed as it is, it's not always negative, right?
No, yeah. So like how we do it is we'll have Monday where it's like, okay, catch up from the weekend because I don't work on the weekend. And so I catch up on Monday, figure out what our week is going to look like. Then I typically have meetings Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Fridays again, like catching up, closing out, and making sure I don't feel like, oh my goodness, I didn't get anything done. And I don't feel like I'm going into the weekend with things that are undone. So we set it up where we have a good opening of the week. We do our
Mhm.
chunk of meetings externally in the middle of the week, and then we close out the week and we're ready for like a really family oriented or fun oriented or whatever you want to do, however you want to focus your weekend. You have that mental capacity to
Mhm.
actually focus on that.
Really love that. And I think that's such a good sort of rhythm to get into, right?
Mhm.
I see this all the time. I'm talking to cans and they kind of are, telling me day to day what's going on, kind of what's been happening. And I'll see sort of trends like that. And I think that is kind of a common one too, that people
Yeah.
are structuring their week in a way that services clients, they know what's happening, they're tapped in, they're getting their pulses, they're happy, but then also is kind of really strategic too, where you do a touch base at the end of the week. They're prepared for the weekend. And
Mhm.
that's so important as well. Kind of
Yeah.
having those multiple touch points and then knowing what you have on the agenda for the rest of the week is awesome. And I love setting my day up like that too.
Yeah.
Cam hack from Melanie and Katie.
Yeah. Well, and we also kind of do it like on a daily basis too. Like once I pick my son up from school, like I don't have any meetings for the remainder of my day, which is like from 4 till 5. And then I can try and focus on closing out the day. So again, my evenings are, because I don't like to have a mindset where I bring my work life into my family life. As
Mhm,
much as possible, I like to have that clear mind space where
mhm,
I have that balance. And it's not perfect, but I like to try and have that balance. So when I'm done my work, I'm like, okay, I feel as though everything's completed for today. I know what my things are to do for tomorrow. And now I can switch my mindset to mom mode, or, depending on what
yeah,
your life is, like mom mode or activity mode or dinner mode, or whatever your evening comes up with,
mhm,
like has in store. And then that also helps with that like Zoom fatigue, or
mhm,
that mental capacity of like
mhm,
how much you have going on, and trying to juggle between work life, family life, personal life,
mhm.
all the different things.
And I think it comes easy too, like when you are having a lot of meetings, the longer you work with an agency, right? Like the
Mhm.
longer you're working with an agency, know the clients, know their questions, you can really be sort of really smart in the way you do your agenda. You know what they're going to ask, you
Yeah.
know what they care about. So, like, that's super helpful too. The early days, I always tell Camses, like, the early days can be super overwhelming because it's like it's a relationship and it's something that doesn't just happen overnight. You're new, you're learning multiple things all
Mhm.
in the first couple of weeks. But, after you get a hang of kind of what's going on inside the agency, coupled with all of the wonderful dot resources and tools, it
Yeah.
really does kind of hit a sweet spot where those meetings become really enjoyable, a little bit easier. You're prepared, you know what goes on the agenda, all those things. So let's pivot, Melanie, and tell me about those days where my sort of admin days, as I call them, I'm like snuggled in a blanket, toque on my head, toque, yes, we're Canadian. Um,
Yeah.
toque on my head, like warm and fuzzy, or, out by the pool or something. Like, what do those sort of project management days look like for you?
Yeah. So, in the summer, I would sit on my hammock in the backyard and swing on my hammock because I still was able to get internet, and do my workout there, just like lounging if it wasn't too
Yeah.
hot. Those days are fun. I'm now going to be getting myself an egg hammock because I just recently moved, so I have a porch on my on my like at my front door. So I'm gonna get that, and I'm gonna have that as my setup for like my summer days or my fall days when it's just like trying to like focus and have like a power hour kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and those days, like work wise, it's just creating my list and just checking things off, making sure I'm checking in with my agencies, making sure I'm checking in with the clients. And those days I actually find very satisfying.
Mhm.
um, because I feel like I'm connecting with the agency, I'm connecting with the clients, everything's taken care of. We're dotting the I's, crossing whatever that phrase is.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, I feel very productive. I'm in my comfy space. So yeah, environment wise, I like to be outside, or I like to be, yeah, in my cozy on my corner
Mhm.
couch. Even sometimes I have like the background TV on, or some
Mhm.
music on, or my Christmas tree up, or whatever the
Yeah.
season. I try and like set it up. So as I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, this is like super enjoyable.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
And I'm and
Same.
I'm and I'm, like, getting things done, and I'm feeling productive, and I know I'm doing really good work. I'm helping the agency,
Mhm.
I'm helping the clients get results, so it's an all around, like, warm and fuzzy kind of feeling,
Mhm.
and, like, obviously, that's not every single day, but, like, for the most part, that's a lot of the days.
Yeah. And I think those sort of PM or admin days or even like catch up days sometimes, right? I know we're as a CAM characteristic, we're pretty diligent about our lists and getting everything done. But if a task kind of has to overflow into the next day, like it is really good to so beneficial to have
Yeah.
that time too. Um, and I love like I saw on social media today, actually a media buyer that I've worked with before. Shout
Mhm.
out to Paul. He had on his Instagram like about Celine Dion, like something about Celine Dion. And I was like, being again Canadian, I was like, that better not be a joke. Like she is a legend.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, I like love her." So then I go to my computer, I put on Celine Dion in the background. I'm like, "Oh yeah, true artist, like love her so much." But if I'm sitting in a cubicle in an office, I can't put
You
my
can't do
Celine
that.
Dion on. You know what I
No,
mean? So I
no,
have Celine on. I'm enjoying the music. It gets me
yeah.
excited. I'm like, what a queen. I'm doing my work. I have to pause for emails because my brain doesn't
Mhm.
always, sing songs and focus properly. But you know what I mean? I can go in and out and it's
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. If I'm kind of tasking something out, building out project management, I love having that sort of background, my vibe, not the office
Mhm.
vibe.
Yeah. And like even like internally with Dot, like we do a lot of internal trainings and all that kind of stuff. And like if I chose to, and I would assume that this would be okay, I could pop my earbuds in and go for a walk and like listen to some of the
Yes.
trainings and get that exercise and have that. I'm multitasking, but I'm also still very much focusing on the
Yep.
task at hand and still having that. Because I think a big thing with Dot and Cam Life is um, like that balance, right?
Mhm.
And that flexibility to remain like, not get to that point of overwhelm or burnout or whatever, where you're just like work, 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 and you don't have that balance of, filling your cup too. So, yeah, it's very flexible.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally encourage that. I know several of our camps have dogs. Melanie and I are
Yeah.
holding out. We're not there yet, but I'm sure
With
it'll get on
kids.
the list someday.
Yeah.
But people have dogs. They go for a walk. Taylor actually goes for a walk sometimes. She does really live that exercise work-life balance, like so important to even, maintain her day. I will acknowledge that I'm a little lazier, but a neighborhood walk I get on board with for sure.
Yeah.
Or a quick little run just to like take a break. I can go to the stop sign and back, in 20 minutes, and that's enough
Mhm.
sometimes. So I love that flexibility too. And on those PM days, of course, we're always looking our best, of course. But if we need to go for a run and be a little bit sweaty and then hop right back in, totally fine too, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
So, Melanie, I actually think this is super valuable because I know that your Slack is out of control. So, I
Mhm.
love that you manage your day in a way that kind of promotes meetings. You're in that space, your project management space,
Mhm.
but I think you kind of have this overlying or this kind of cloud of Slack too. You have so many Slack channels happening. I know for sure with one of your agencies. How do you manage your Slack day to day?
Yeah. So, I actually organize my Slack between client Slack channels, team Slack channels, intern Slack channels, and then DMs. And so I can close them, open them, close them, open them. So it's not so overwhelming visually.
Mhm.
Um, and then I like to go in first thing and see what I need to do. If it's not pressing, then I actually mark it as unread if I have something more pressing. So I'm not ever losing anything. So yeah, I like to go in first thing and check my Slack and check my email because I have a
Mhm.
couple agencies that are between Slack and email. So there's a couple different places I have to go to. So I normally have like incognito for one agency, regular for the other. So I know between the two.
Mhm.
Um, and then I just check between like I try and very much focus on one task at a time and have like dedicated times for Slack because if I'm on a task and then I see a Slack message come in, then
Right.
it's very overwhelming. We do have it set up that if it's directly related to something I need to focus on, they'll tag me and that shows up differently in Slack. So I know that that's a higher priority and I could then transition and deal with that. So yeah, I try and break it up where I'm focused on a task. I don't have it open. And then I have those times
Yeah.
throughout the day, but it's definitely at the very beginning, at the very end, and then throughout the day. Because yeah, a huge part of my like job description essentially is that client
Mhm.
relationship, and so I am in Slack and an email like all day long. So I just try and prioritize things as best as
Yeah.
possible.
And I think that's definitely something that we sort of address in camp school, but it does take sort of some experience, some
Oh, for sure.
getting used to things and making sure, you're kind of looped into all those things. But I know your Slack channel is a little bit nutty and you're the queen of prioritizing and making it sort of more manageable for sure. So I think if we did have some takeaways today, Melanie, I can certainly appreciate that you have that time with your family in the morning. Something so small like driving your kids to school is exciting as a mom. But I think it's also something that, with the fastness of the world, not everybody gets to do. So I love that that's kind of your experience, your day to day, your sweet little date
Mhm.
with decaf coffee. I don't know what that's about, but
Yeah, can't do coffee.
coupled with this really great sort of structured day where you're in charge of your schedule, you're making sure the T's are crossed, I's
Mhm.
are dotted. And I think that's a really huge takeaway. So that is a day in the life of Melanie. Melanie works with 2 different agencies and she's an all-star cam and has some really, really great experience to contribute to our team. You definitely want to learn more from her and learn more about her job. So go down and look at all the links.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.